That's not people taking advantage. That's working people kept in low pay by a system that the Conservatives built and a system that Reform now defend. Work should be the route out of poverty, not a lifetime trapped in it for children or their families. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The first thing I want to do is kind of bring this back, because it's being pitched as if it's those that are not in work getting something that's being paid for by those that are in work, and that ain't the case. And it's wrong to suggest it. I'll tell you what's doing it is the scar that was left on our economy about in-work poverty. Reducing child poverty is the reason that I came into politics. Children don't choose their circumstances. They're not to blame for low wages. They're not to blame for insecure work. They're not to blame for their parents' pay packets. Yet they're the ones who feel the consequences the most. A child's chances should not depend on their parents' wages. A child's future should not depend on whether mum or dad has a bad boss or a bad year. That's why I was proud when this government announced this policy, and that 450,000 children will be lifted out of poverty by the end of this Parliament. And that includes over 3,000 children in Corby and East Northamptonshire. That's not just a statistic. That's 3,000 children. That's 3,000 lives. That's 3,000 futures and 3,000 chances. And do not let anyone tell you that this isn't about values, because it is. I remember when we announced this and the Tories on them benches were growling at us because we were suggesting that we'd put a tax on mansions, telling us we couldn't put a tax on mansions, and now sitting in here today telling us we shouldn't be lifting 450,000 children out of poverty. This is all about values and all about where I stand. This issue tells us everything you need to know about the priorities of the parties that are opposite. They'll fight for their cheaper mansions, but not for children who go to bed hungry. And then there's Reform. They try to present themselves as the voice of working people. But when it comes to it, they vote against working families. They vote against employment rights, and they're voting against this bill. In their amendment to this bill, they said they disagree with removing the two-child limit because it fails to incentivise work for low-paid families. But that's not people cheating the system. That's not people taking advantage. That's working people kept in low pay by a system that the Conservatives built and a system that Reform now defend. Work should be the route out of poverty, not a lifetime trapped in it for children or their families. That's why this government has chose to back working families. That's why this government's chose to back children. That's why this government is choosing fairness, and that's why this Parliament should back this bill.
Kit Malthouse.